Up, add it up, add it up. How you doing? Android Ari, and today I want to just chat about currently what's happening in the nerdcore community. I've been watching it for quite some time, observing a lot of content creators, and thoroughly been enjoying the music from this community. But man, is it in a very tenuous place currently. And I believe that all started with Jamar Rose's Nerd Control. The song in of itself is mediocre, let's be honest about it. It's not even some of the best rapping I've ever heard from Jamar Rose.
They've been debating like who deserved to make the list. Kept a bunch of monsters on my watch like an all matrix.
Jamar Rose has done exceptionally well in so many tracks that to put out something like Nerdcore or Nerd Control and expect anyone to see it as a serious diss or anything worth entertaining for a myriad of reasons. Number one, the thing that Jamar Rose attempted to do with his Nerd Control is very similar to what happened on Control. To be honest, Control is a very interesting song. Even at that point in the game, Kendrick Lamar was considered very much one of the greats of the new generation, and up there in terms of respect. Therefore, when he finally got on Control, his verse was insane. I mean, just to play some parts from it right here, demonstrates the lyrical density and ability of Kendrick Lamar. It's a top tier verse, even if we took out all of the callouts. And that's the difference when we juxtapose it to Nerd Control. Would it have been anything to write home about had we not known about the drama? Had we not known about the artists that were being called out? Had we not known that he had dropped some of the biggest artists in the community? Let's do another comparison. When we look at the song Control, there are so many great moments. He calls himself out for being the king of New York, a entirely different domain to the one he even comes from, which even then is contentious. And then, while just rapping and having insane imagery come forth in your mind, he lists out all the rappers he respects and then says he's going to murder them and shows the absurdity of even believing that they're better than him with a very insanely detailed idea as to how unfeasible it is, and leaves it off there. It is such a monument of a song that people who weren't even mentioned in it bring up how much of a disrespect it was to not be mentioned in it. Almost as if Kendrick Lamar doesn't believe himself to be someone who needs to mention the other greats or to respect their penmanship, and thus it prompted people to respond. What is competition? I'm trying to set the bar high. You're trying to jump and get it. This is things he said in the song. There was no personal beef he had with any of these people. It was purely competition. So, how does Jamar Rose's song fail in this capacity? Well, simply be, it comes across as a bit petty. The main target that I'll get to in the song is Dizzy 8. Dizzy 8 is someone who actually introduced me to Jamar Rose. Jamar Rose, before that, I did not know of him, and his verse on the Fire Cypher did not appeal to me. However, going through the myriad of collabs he had with him, including the one that really invested me to subscribe and watch his other content, was the video he did called The Five Kings of Anime Cypher, playing off the Five Kings of Comedy, that sort of thing. It was very fascinating and I enjoyed his verse. So it came across as a bit perplexing when Jamar Rose speaks about how all these big artists are like siphoning from the community and they're out here eating crumbs, despite the fact that one of the people you're talking about, these big figureheads who aren't giving anybody shine and who is the main target of this video, happens to be someone who's collaborated with you on his channel multiple times. So at this point, it starts to veer into entitlement. It starts to feel more entitled than Jamar had intended. Let's say he didn't intend it to come across as entitled. Unfortunately, that is the consequences of how he spoke about it. Dizzy 8 has done an insane amount for him. Let's speak about other artists he's collaborated with. Geno's 5, a now lesser known artist than you, and he's collaborated with him multiple times on his channel. If we're talking, or versus, there are a myriad of artists that have been collaborated with on his channel that aren't big artists. Delta D's. Earlier I was mistaken. I meant to say that his collaboration with the Baki track was the first introduction to him. Even people like Mix Williams, who has numerous amounts of songs with him as well. This is why it didn't sit well with a many amount of people, that it was just perceived as competition, despite the fact that Jamar Rose was airing very personal grievances, things that were very unique to him, issues he was taking with people like Dizzy 8. So I can understand why people like Mix Williams and Dizzy 8 responded, because it was extremely personal. Or the fact that, again, Jamar Rose talks about how he works harder than all these artists, therefore implying that he is far more deserving of their spots in notoriety and respect within the community than any of the others. Because when you say I work harder than you, that doesn't necessarily mean that the quality is there. I mean, Taiwan releases almost a non-existent category of music on a monthly basis, and people still just find him an objectively, well, not objectively, but for the most part, subjectively, the community of large thinks of him as a better rapper. I mean, there's so many reasons why he was chosen to be on the Worldwide Cypher. Screwface picked him out of Mari and Kai because they're just great rappers. We'll get to that later. But yeah, this is a reason why many people just look at it as a very weird verse, because he brings up the fact that all these other artists haven't gotten back to him. So again, it comes across as him feeling entitled to their time when people like Mari are at school and Jamar was in the Navy. So again, it seems so bizarre for him to be so upset when he understands better than anybody that they have lives outside of music. If this was just everything they did, then sure, it could be a little bit more understandable. If you gave them a time frame and you paid them some money to do a verse, then sure. But if you're doing verses for free for somebody, there is really no place to complain. I'm talking about you, Kaz. No matter how much you complain about the payment option, you're the one who set your price. You're the one who has to vouch for you. You're an independent artist, and you are at the forefront of that bargaining tool. If you wanted notoriety above being paid, then that's the sacrifice you made. That's the trade-off you made. There's nobody else to blame if that doesn't work out other than yourself. So, that out of the way, why has this become more contentious? We have to address Screwface Sean.
Ladies and gentlemen, guess who's back?
Screwface John, Yasirski, yes, that man, that guy. Why is everyone having a problem with Screwface? Well, what is hip-hop? I believe, at the end of the day, hip-hop extends outside of so many networks. It is a poetry. It is an art form. It is a musical expression of the human condition. It is combative. It is competition. It's a myriad of things. And to exclude one and pretend as though it isn't encompassing all these things that have provided people an opportunity to get themselves out of financially dubious circumstances is actually narrow-minded. However, I wouldn't argue that anyone is obligated to participate in any of the things I mentioned just to be a part of hip-hop. Hip-hop, at the end of the day, is a musical expression, and I believe that not feeling obligated to entertain any of the other ones doesn't make you less a part of the art form. So why do I say all of this now? Well, Jamar Rose mentioned a numerous amounts of artists, and Screw put forth the idea that if you don't respond to this, you ain't respected, you're not hip-hop. I get your idea that battle rap is a part of hip-hop. Hell, the URL scene is a staple to hip-hop and the culture, but that is upon them to respond and make songs about. They don't have to respond. They're not obligated to respond. They're not less of artists because they do not believe it is worth their time. For most people, they saw through the facade of it being healthy or friendly competition. They just saw it as Jamar attacking them, feeling a sense of entitlement, and it comes across as a bit clout chasey. As much as I like Jamar as an artist, I just feel as though this track as a whole is a misstep. So, to speak on these people has been a contentious part of, well, the anime community for quite some time. Screwface has always put himself as opposed to the community in the sense that he has came into the community and basically told them where they can and cannot sit, despite the fact that their communities have existed pre-Screwface. Their communities have been building up for weeks on end. A lot of these people have been releasing music weeks and weeks at a time, perfecting and critiquing and taking in all the criticism they can to improve their work ethic, and their craft to where it is now. Some of these people, like Rusage or DPS, have been releasing music on a weekly basis for years on end. So to come in here and then try to dictate to them what is and what isn't hip-hop just seems very narrow-minded and dictatorship in nature. Screwface, I understand that you're here for entertainment, but let people respond who feel like an obligation to respond. To try to dictate to them that makes them less of an artist when this might be something they feel more personal about. Hell, even you, when you did your whole beef with God, I don't remember his name, he's not a good artist, I don't think he's good. However, you brought up the fact that it was of a disrespect to a level that you just didn't agree with. He was slimy. And I understand that you enjoy the content, but there's overstepping in line being that level of instigator, especially Mafu the Prophet too.
Said a baby, you should have said a bitch, nigga. Hold on, you should have said stop crying like a bitch, nigga. Stop crying like a little bitch. You feel me? That's what Dizzy meant to say.
Both of y'all are just insane instigators. And at a certain amount of time, it just takes a moment to say, look, I humble myself. I try to do that sometimes. I don't try to speak from personal experiences that I don't know about. I can understand why Dizzy took it to a higher level, because that was something that attacked him personally. Mayor Blackwell felt the same way. You're saying you're working harder than him when he works a job and does music and is still releasing music on a weekly basis. Speaking in that nature just makes it come across as insanely disrespectful by telling them they have to respond, when the person they're talking about knows him so personally that it feels almost insanely disrespectful to speak in such a level of ignorance with the knowledge of what they do on the side. Overall, I understand where Mari is coming from, and the reason why I felt motivated to make this video more than ever is that Mari sees Screwface John instigating a lot of people to respond, instigating a lot of people to make music, instigating a lot of people to see that they're less of an artist if they don't respond, that they're less of a hip-hop artist when hip-hop isn't built upon battle rap. It is a part of the culture as much as everything else here, including nerdcore rap, artists who are at their heart nerdy people who enjoy this music. And I'm sorry people keep trying to make this deviation as if that makes the music somehow any better. And some of y'all who have come into this genre of making music weren't popping off before you were making that stuff, or weren't even considered good artists before you came in here to become an asset or two for a song that happened to need y'all. Let that simmer in with y'all. But hey, if you guys feel any different about what I'm saying here, perhaps make some original music and see how well it does. Be grateful for the audience you have. Be grateful for the opportunities you have in this marketplace, because these people are very humble. These people are very intimate in terms of their support for each other. And I don't think that should be taken for granted. I don't think that that music needs to be looked on as lesser. All that said, this is Android Ari. And yeah, thanks for tuning in.